The biggest winners are gold. I think it's up 46, 47%. Bitcoin, I want to say it's up 50 or 60. I'm not even sure. There's a Morgan Stanley basket that's a retail flow basket that has all the meme stocks in it. It's up 67, 68%. So it's really what retail jumps on. So crypto, digital gold, that's obviously something that's very, very appealing.
Does that mean you're jumping on all of that right now?
Well, I'd want to have positions in all of it, for sure.
That was Tudor investment founder Paul Tudor Jones on Squawk Box yesterday. Bitcoin is trading near a record high. Joining us now, Anthony Pompliano, professional capital management founder and CEO. Anthony, it's good to see you. So I have to tell you, when we talk about crypto, Bitcoin, you want to keep up to date. It's a big, important market now with massive participation, but the story's always the same, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of like store of value, more people know about it and want to participate in it. Is there anything that's kind of moving the needle on a fundamental basis or a flow basis at this point?
Well, look, I actually think one of the problems with the traditional financial market is that people have to pay attention to it, right? If you think about what's going on in the stock market, I have to know what the company is, what products they're constantly coming out with, who are they selling them to, what's the latest earnings report, what's interest rates, all this information. It's very hard. And so if you think of the average American, they are getting punished in the economy, right? That K-shaped economy is really, really hurting a very large portion of it. And the beauty of Bitcoin is the very simple story. They are never going to stop printing money, so therefore Bitcoin will never stop going up. And if you simply think of Bitcoin as savings technology, all you have to do is go out, work hard at your job, make money, spend less than you make, and then put the extra savings into Bitcoin, and then allow Bitcoin to benefit from what we know is going to happen, which is they are never going to stop printing money. And I think that simplicity is actually very attractive to some cohort of investors. And now you see investors saying, wait a second here, this quote-unquote debasement trade means that I don't have to go do all that work. I can simply just go and buy something like Bitcoin. And I think that really maybe the story of finance of this decade is that Bitcoin is becoming the hurdle rate, right? Historically, we've looked at things like the S&P. If you go back to 2020, the S&P is up 100% since 2020. Priced in Bitcoin is down 90%. All of the returns that people are talking about in traditional finance, most of them are negative because no one can beat Bitcoin. And so if you can't beat it, then we just say you got to buy it. And I think that's what a lot of investors are starting to do.
That's true. Now, the vast majority of Bitcoin that an individual saver is buying is being sold by somebody who already owned it, right? I mean, there's a massive industry that's essentially just kind of middleman, frictional. It's mostly about trading. It's not about anything else. It's not about, like, opening up a savings account where the bank creates the asset.
Well, there's always going to be trading volume in any asset, right? People are obviously going to constantly be trading an asset back and forth. But what you see is more and more Bitcoin is being taken into what we call illiquid supply. So over time, that percentage continues to increase where every Bitcoin that I buy, no one's ever touching again until I die. Right? And I think there's a lot of Bitcoiners who believe the exact same thing. And so what you're starting to see is that illiquid supply numbers creeping up. And so as more capital comes in, the only thing that can happen is if you have a finite supply asset, more people want that asset, but the people who hold it aren't willing to sell it, the price has to go up to clear the market. And that's why Bitcoin continues to go up over time.
Gold has done better than Bitcoin this year. Do you think in the crypto community they see gold as an ally or is it a competitor?
Yeah, it's funny that on one hand, Bitcoin and crypto folks, they're brothers in arms, right, in the fight against currency debasement. On the other hand, I think that the gold bugs are having a field day because they're outperforming Bitcoin. I think gold's up 50% this year. Bitcoin's up about 33%. What I will say is that the average return since 2015 of Bitcoin in Q4 is 60%. So the gold bugs, you're not at the finish line for the year yet. Let's see what happens. But if you go back just 5 years, right, gold is up about 100%. And during that time, Bitcoin's up 1,000%. And so I think that they both benefit from the same thing. It's just that you have a smaller market cap asset that's got a lot more volatility in Bitcoin, and therefore it's kind of gold with wings is the way I like to think about Bitcoin.
What's the difference between those investor pools, or do they overlap?
I think that you generally are going to have an older audience that's got gold. You're also going to have the central banks today, institutions. But very quickly, you're starting to see more and more people that own Bitcoin. They're getting older, right? It's been around for 15, 16 years now. But also, I think that people aspire to have the central banks eventually hold Bitcoin. The question is just, when do they do that? And what are the geopolitical things that start to transpire if all of a sudden you're saying, we're going to go put Bitcoin in our actual treasury reserve?
You have a kind of a purist's take on the utility of Bitcoin as this store of value and this anti-debasement asset. Where does then the kind of publicly traded crypto asset treasury companies fit in? It just seems much more about kind of a financial engineering workaround that people are, paying a premium for the asset they could just buy straight?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be two different types of public market players. There's the category creators, and frankly, in my opinion, the category winners, companies like Strategy and Metaplanet, who they have come out and said, look, we're going to buy Bitcoin, we're going to hold that Bitcoin, and we're going to use different capital market tools to go and buy more Bitcoin. We've got a business that we've created. ProCap BTC is the private entity that's going public, raised $750 million for it. And our goal is to not only hold Bitcoin on that balance sheet, we think it's a great treasury reserve asset, but then go build products and services on top of that to go get more Bitcoin. And so if you think of traditional financial institutions, they have a dollar-denominated balance sheet. They build products and services to go and solve problems in the market, and they get more dollars on their balance sheet. Well, we think that you can build the same type of financial institution, but rather than do it to try to get more dollars, try to get more Bitcoin onto your balance sheet. And so I think that generally what you're seeing is you're going to see some companies that hold the asset, and then you're going to see companies that say, look, we want to offer products and services in the market so that we can get more of that asset onto our balance sheet.
And one thing about gold is as it goes up in price, it becomes less tethered to whatever utility that the actual metal is used for, right? The jewelry and the industrial uses. Bitcoin ideally is in that same category, right? I mean, it's almost better if we're not pretending that it's being kind of used in a transactional way for things not asset-based.
Yeah, look, I think that, Bitcoin, people used to always say to me, it's not backed by anything, right? And what I would always say to them, well, what's the most valuable commodity in the world? And 5 years ago, this used to be controversial. Now I think everyone agrees that the most valuable commodity in the world is computing power. And so Bitcoin is backed by computing power. And so if you think about it from that perspective, there is this kind of tethered to reality where there's mining and there's computational power and power generation, things like that. Now, to your point about gold, definitely the bigger it gets, the smaller the percentage of kind of the industrial use case. With Bitcoin, I actually think that what we are watching is, it's something I've changed my mind on, is Bitcoin is not competing with the US dollar in the sense of transactions. Mm-hmm. Instead, with the rise of stablecoins, now what we're seeing is in your regular traditional financial life, you have a savings account, you have a checking account, you have a brokerage account. Now in the digital world, your savings account is Bitcoin. Your checking account is stable coins, and then you're going to have a bunch of assets that you go from a brokerage account standpoint that you're going to try to generate more of a return so that you can go back into your checking or savings. And so I actually think that it's not new. It's just new types of assets that people are starting to figure out how to be spent.
But you don't want people talking about using it to buy a pizza or a car or a house if it's supposed to be an asset that's climbing in value.
Maybe that happens at some point in the future. I just look at the market data. Stable coins are being used for that stuff in the digital world, not Bitcoin. And I think that that's good. Like, I don't want to spend an asset that I think is going to be worth more in the future today.
It's still a big marketing thing. Like Grant Cardone, the big motivational speaker, he's selling his house in Miami. He's only going to take Bitcoin. and you just wonder, okay, A, he got press for it, which is what he wanted, but also, do you think, knowing the Bitcoin community, that anyone is going to trade, I don't know, I think it's $30 million or something like that in Bitcoin right now, given the price that we've seen for a house?
Maybe he doesn't want to move.
I thought, I may be wrong on this, but I think he sold it in a week. If I remember correctly, I think somebody actually came in and said, I think somebody came in and said, hey, I'm going to buy. So who that Bitcoiner is, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Anthony, thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.